this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Friday. Kick off the Winter Olympics in style with the opening ceremony from Italy, featuring a special performance by Mariah Carey. Celebrate the greatest athletes from around the globe as they come together to go for gold.
Lindsey Vonn, sensational!
The opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
Ilya Malinin. Redefining the sport.
Friday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan. I've got a question for you. Are you a good keeper of secrets? I've had ups and downs in this area. Sometimes you get a bit of information and someone begs and pleads with you to keep it under your hat, as they say. But there have been other times, particularly in work environments, where somebody will give you information and they'll say, well, I prefer that you not say anything about this. And then you might hear it from another person that they've said it to already. It comes back to you, and then you wind up confirming it because it was said to you as well. That happens on a regular basis. But let me ask you this. How far would you go to keep a secret? Would you keep a secret if perhaps your best friend was having an affair? Would you keep a secret if perhaps you knew that somebody that's a friend of yours had robbed a bank? Or would you keep a secret if someone in your sphere brought you to their home, took you down in the basement, and said, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to find a young lady. I'm going to execute her. And then I'm going to dismember her. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. Dave, I almost fell off of my chair, as they say. Just this week, that's why I wanted to hop on with you today, because back in April, and just let me make sure I got the date right.
You do.
We did an episode of Body Bags.
Yes, we did.
Entitled Deadly First Date, Dinner, Drinks, Dismemberment, in regards to Sade Robinson.
Yes, we did.
And I think that you and I can both state, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that we came away from that sickened, I think.
Yep.
Because of what little perhaps had actually been released in this particular case. But I asked you and suggested to you, you were kind enough to agree to it after this week's developments and what we know now. I felt as though that there was a real need for us to hop on and talk about the death of Sade based upon a search warrant that has now been released that was executed on her alleged murderer's home, Dave. And that home we talked about extensively before. I actually recall that very well. We've talked about this before, but oh my gosh, some of this stuff that has been revealed in this document it'll make stronger men than me. It'll make their stomach churn. And here's the thing, and this is what I was getting to. A lot of this information, Dave, has been sourced from a confidential informant by the police. We don't know what that person's name is.
No.
But this person actually revealed this to the investigators, Dave.
And, you know, what Joe Scott is talking about is this confidential informant that now has released information that has become public. Believe it or not, Maxwell Anderson didn't just all of a sudden decide he was going to kill somebody. Nothing happened that evening that brought him to the point where he acted inappropriately and they got into an argument that led to something worse that became a death. This was something that Maxwell Anderson thought of for a long time.
Yeah.
He thought about it enough to tell somebody what he was going to do and to share these thoughts with somebody. All I can think of is he thought it was okay. But Sade Robinson's father, I was thinking about them. I was thinking about her whole family. You know, they seem to be handling things better than I would.
Yeah. I'd agree. Yeah.
And her dad said, you know, they were asking, well, how do you feel about it now? And he said, what do you mean? How do I feel about it? You're going to tell me this could have been stopped?
Right.
This guy, he's a hero because he's telling the cops after? Where was he before it happened? Why didn't he speak up? But if he's a confidential informant, he's got a contact to the police, and he didn't pick up the phone and say, hey, this guy's talking really crazy stuff here.
Yeah,
it didn't have to happen.
Okay, when I heard CI to begin with, okay, I was thinking Maxwell's been locked up. All these months later. We're in August now. We're laying this down in August. This occurred back in April. I was thinking, okay, Maxwell's been on the inside. He's getting antsy. He strikes up a quote-unquote friendship with somebody inside the walls there. And
so jailhouse snitch.
Yeah, and so he spills his guts. Dave, that ain't what happened.
Nope.
This guy said, now, keep in mind, Sade was actually this, let's see if I got this right, going all the way back to April. Sade had actually informed a person that she was going out on a date that night with a guy for the first. This is April 1st. Dave, according to this document, the CI was not just told by Maxwell about this. The CI came to Maxwell's home,
right,
and visualized this down there. You're damn right. The dad has a right to be mad
on March 5th, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, look,
March 5th.
Yeah,
I'm staring at it. March 5th, he's in the guy's house, and he's talking about something he's going to do a month later. Because you mentioned it. Sade was communicating with people. She's excited about this. I remember how people were talking. They just loved her. You know, people just really cared about her. And they were talking about she was excited about this guy. Now we know on March 5th, the informant is at Maxwell Anderson's home. Maxwell Anderson showed the informant the basement. The basement even then included a plastic tarp. The tarp covered a sanitation sink, ceiling, floor, walls. Anderson told the informant what he was going to do and who. So how long was Maxwell Anderson communicating with Sade Robinson before they ever went on their date?
Right. Or, how long? I think that the digital evidence in this case is going to be, I'm waiting to see this. We're going to do another episode about this. I can tell you that's on the horizon. The idea that he had planned this, and if in fact what the CI is saying, he named her. Okay, he's already targeted her back in March, Dave.
Right.
So it's like, and I always compare killers, particularly killers that are this highly organized. They're hunters. They are hunters, and they're planning what they're going to do. What's that book that came out all those years ago? Is it called The Most Dangerous Game? I think, where they release people on the island, and you've got this guy that's going to go out and hunt these people. This is like, they're hunters. They're planning all of this along the way. This guy is planning this so far back. So I'm wondering if he has been surveilling her. You know, like he ran into her somehow, and something clicked in his mind, because, people like this, they have a type that they're after.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you have a type, God, we talk about this guy so much, but Bundy was very specific about what he wanted. The brunette hair, long shoulder length, that sort of thing. Do you remember it was during that period of time that when people were terrified about this, people, I think, with him and Berkowitz, women started changing their hairstyles as a result of this.
Parted down the middle.
Yeah, exactly. So you see this, and you really try to plumb the depths of how evil this is. He's thinking about this all the while. And what was that date you told me again about? Was it March 5th?
March
is that
5th.
when he made
March
this reveal?
5th, yeah.
How does this guy, I think about this, how does the CIA know that it was on that particular date? If I ask you right now, Stone Cold, without looking at your phone or without looking at your computer, what were you doing on March 5th? You know, can you tell me? I mean, my life moves pretty frenetically. Yours is insane with everything that you do. Could you actually tell me that?
I couldn't tell you what I was doing yesterday.
I know. I couldn't either.
March 5th.
I just move on.
Okay. What if, though? We don't know. We don't know who the guy is. We don't know anything about who the CI is. CI being confidential informant. Usually you hear about these guys relating to drug things.
Yeah.
And that's how drug dealers get caught. So I always tell folks, you know, if you think that's a way of life that you would like to, you know, you watch a Big Bang, or not Big Bang, but Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul.
Right. Yeah.
And you see people doing drugs and getting away with it. That's not what happens, because drug dealers get busted, and that's who they get busted by, is confidential informants.
Right.
They sell people out. So to have somebody they call a CI involved in this house and seeing this, I'm wondering if there was a drug thing going on, and that he was somehow invited, because he got invited to the home by Maxwell Anderson. Anderson took him in there on March 5th and showed him everything. But Joe, there's also another thing that has come out since then. A woman claims in February, before the CI talks about seeing the dungeon, a woman has come out and said that she went on a date with Maxwell Anderson in February, and he was really pushing to get her to come back to the house. She said that she felt like he had drugged her drink, and she decided, no, I ain't going. She didn't feel like herself, pulled out and went home. And then after she heard about this now, she's like, wait a minute.
Oh,
that's what he probably had planned for me, or maybe I was a warm-up. Because if she's on a date with him in February, and on March 5th, he has targeted his next one, and he's willing to show somebody, I mean, we're talking about a level of evil that goes well beyond just one piece of evidence, Joe, that I remember us talking about last time.
Yeah.
It was the femur, leg in the bone.
Yeah.
And there was where it had been sawed halfway through and then snapped like you would a tree limb.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
about halfway through the shaft. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how this person treated another human being. That's what he did to her. And I think whenever I think about this case, that's what I think of. That I don't know why that horrific image has stayed with me, but it has.
Well, I think that, and again, I don't want to chase too many rabbits here, but when we begin to think about this methodology being applied, Dave, with the sawing at, they call it, let's just say it's mid shaft in the thigh.
Right.
People will put their hand right on the middle of their thigh between their knee and their hip. That would be referred to as mid shaft. If you go directly, because femur is the largest bone in the body, long bone, that is. Let me qualify that.
Yeah.
Largest long bone in the body. Okay. So first off, if he was truly a highly skilled individual at dissection, you're not going to saw through bone. You're going to go to a joint to disarticulate a body, because it's much more simple in order to do that, because you would essentially dissect around, let's just say if you're talking about a knee, you would dissect around with a very sharp instrument. In the case of surgery or in the morgue, we're going to use a scalpel.
Right.
And then you're going to use very robust scissors. But if you can get into that joint, you can disarticulate the body. Disarticulation is completely different from a standard dismemberment where you're sawing through shafts of bone. And then the brutality of this, if in fact they've gotten halfway through the bone and then they get tired of it,
right,
and for expedience sake, they're going to snap it in half. It takes a very robust person to be able to do this, and very purpose, but unskilled,
right?
Because you're creating. Well, first off, you're creating a big mess. Something that I think that if you took the long view of it, you would understand that it would be unnecessary for expedience sake and for just for the what term am I looking for here? The speed with which you could do it.
Okay.
And so I'm wondering, and I do have a point here, kind of going a long way around the barn. I'm wondering if this first woman that he allegedly contacted or had a date with, if she was going to be his first attempt. And then he got frustrated by that, and perhaps he's purposed now, after he targets Sade, in order to go after her. I think probably, and hopefully this will be revealed, I'm hoping that from a typology standpoint, we're going to find out a little bit more about this woman that says that she was with him, and we'll get an idea as her appearance, where she worked, and the life she lived, because that might even tell us more about Sade Robinson and perhaps, just perhaps, other victims if they're out there.
Friday. Kick off the Winter Olympics in style with the opening ceremony from Italy, featuring a special performance by Mariah Carey. Celebrate the greatest athletes from around the globe as they come together to go for gold.
Lindsey Vonn, sensational!
The opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
Ilya Malinin.
Redefining the sport.
Friday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Brother Dave, I got to tell you this. After what has been revealed with this warrant, I'm actually encouraged. And I'm encouraged from the perspective of, it appears that the police are leaving no stone unturned here, because they go into pretty detailed information regarding what occurred in that home from an investigative perspective. But for our friends that have not heard the original episode or have not been following this case in the news, can we just go back just very briefly and kind of lay out the timeline here about what happened with Sade? And
I'll put the notes in the body, in the description of this show, in case you want to and listen to the original one, so you get an idea of where we're coming from and why this is so shocking today. It is the previous show that we delved into that I thought we couldn't go any deeper, and it just got worse from there. But Monday, April 1st, Sade Robinson disappears. She had a date, and she was excited about the date with Maxwell Anderson. She meets him at the Twisted Fisherman. That's where they got together, 7:30 the next morning. All right, they went to dinner at the Twisted Fisherman, had their dinner, and they were seen. We've got pictures of them being there. They posted some things on social media. The next morning, Sade Robinson doesn't go home, and they find her car on fire, 7:30 a.m. Out on a date, taking pictures. Next morning, she's not home, and her car is now found burning in an alley on fire. It was later that day, 10 hours after her car was found burning, that a human leg was found in Warnemont Park. Think about that for just a minute. 19-year-old woman doesn't come home. Her car is found burning. 10 hours later, a leg is found.
Yep.
On the April the 4th, Maxwell Anderson was arrested for questioning at his home. It was the next. Now, how tough is that, Joe? You've been around investigations your entire adult life, pretty much. You have the last person seen with somebody is usually the first person you talk to, right? If I go missing, they're going to say, well, Joe, what were you guys talking about? You know, what were you were with him at 6 o'clock. What were you doing? Well, that's the same thing here. And
it goes, and that goes to, we've talked about the term intimates along the way. And granted, they're not married, and I don't think you can actually say that they're in a relationship. They are having a date.
Right. They went to dinner.
So if this is at a restaurant, if I'm not mistaken, that he had previously worked at.
Right.
Because he told her, I think, that while he was there, he was going to pick up a W-2 and engaged with the bartender that night. That's what's so nutty about this, Dave.
Yeah.
You're placing yourself in a position where you are known.
Right.
You are known to have been an employee there. Your former fellow employees saw you there. And not only that, you engage with them. And it's not like this guy is not unnoticeable. He's got long blonde hair. He's got a beard. He's going to stand out. People, he probably waves at people when he walks in. And he had told her at the time that he was going to have to get his W-2, talk to the bartender who he knew.
Right.
And so, I think for police, asking who last has contact with him is going to be very, very important, because they're going to perhaps know more information than they have at that particular time, because they can kind of, if that's concentrically oriented, almost like a bullseye, you start from there and then you radiate out from there relative to the investigation, Dave.
And that's where they started putting together other evidence, Joe. Again, you've got the guy posting stuff on social media with Sade. Her car's burning. If they find a car burning, they do look at the serial number. You've got ID.
You
get the VIN. You know who owns it, or who. It's not a big jump to find out who had the car last. And in this case, it was Sade Robinson's blue Honda Civic is burning. An eyewitness saw a man with a tan backpack get out of the car. Man then throws a lighter inside the driver's side. Car ignites. Guy walks away. It's like out of a movie.
I can't believe I was thinking the same thing. Like, there's like an old Denzel Washington movie, Man on Fire, literally is the name of it. And there's this poster image, I always call poster images, of him walking away from a burning vehicle behind him. And you can, it's like the idea of striking like, a Zippo lighter, essentially. Right. You can hear the clink. Yeah. You hear the snap of the flame, and then they kind of toss it. How many times have we seen that in movies? And can you imagine seeing this happen before your very eyes? If you're the citizen, you're standing there and you say, okay, well, there's a guy getting out of the car. No big deal. But then maybe your eye catches him holding a flame in his hand, and poof, as he's about to turn on his heels, he tosses it into the car, and look, if there's accelerant in there, it's going to blow out the windows. And I don't mean like literally like knock the glass out, but if the windows are open, you're going to have the supply of oxygen. It's going to flash over. Yeah. It's going to catch your attention. It caught their attention. So let me ask you something, Dave. When you go into town, all right, and everybody carries backpacks now, do you ever notice the color of a backpack? I never do. Hey, look, I teach at a university with over 10,000 students. There's backpacks everywhere. Right. I couldn't tell you, no more than a man in the moon, what color backpacks my students have. Right. Okay. I just couldn't. But this person takes notice of the color of the backpack.
Because the guy threw a thing of matches in the car and blew it up.
I know,
the thing
exactly.
Is, here's what's worse, though, Joe. It's like you play that old gets worse than this game, right? Yeah. The guy not only throws the matches and lights the car on fire, the witness notices because the guy doesn't say anything, walks towards a bus stop and gets on a bus. Hey, dude, your car's on. Wait a minute. You lit the car on fire. Where are you going? I mean,
you couldn't look, if you and I walked into a producer's office in Hollywood and this is part of our script, they're going to laugh you out of the office because it seems so incredibly absurd. But here's fact. What is it? Fact is stranger than fiction.
Always.
Yeah. And the guy certainly is in this case.
He describes this dude walking away with the brown backpack. Well, when they start looking, okay, well, let's look for anybody getting on a bus in this general area. Wait a minute. He's got a brown backpack on. So now you've got the ID confirmed by the bus camera. So they've got this guy, Maxwell Anderson, just totally beyond anything one can imagine. By the way, allegedly, I guess. He's pleaded not guilty. But let's get to, they do find Sade Robinson's clothing and purse, they're found in the trunk of the car. Her burned iPhone, which, they couldn't confirm was exactly hers right away. But, a lot of young people have their phones tricked out. They put a lot of bling on them and stuff. And the phone that was found there did match her phone. And it was the leg that was found. The leg that was found on the beach north of the pump house. You remember this, Joe? It was found. There's a cliff leading down to the beach. And I've tried to figure out how and when this could have happened, because you're on a date with somebody, you're seen out, and 12 hours later, her car's on fire, and you're lighting her car on fire and walking away. So in between, there's a 12-hour window between having dinner and she's got to be dead when you light her car on fire. They find a leg fairly quickly. 10 hours after the car's on fire, they find a leg. So when did he kill her? And was he up all night getting rid of? What was he doing? That this was his end of the night? I mean, did he stash a bunch of body parts and slowly disperse them over time?
I think that's what's occurred. And Dave, if you go back to the search warrant, the CI makes reference to this. It gets that down and dirty, where he's talking about that the CI is saying that Maxwell told him that's what he was going to do. I mean, can you imagine standing there? He's got plastic, allegedly, adjacent to what you call it a utility sink. I think we always call it a deep sink, is what we refer to it as. I think that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I pulled that right out of the legal stuff. That's what they put in the documents.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. I mean, like if you have a utility room, where you do your washing machine is there and all that sort of thing. So it's not, it's not a porcelain farmer sink you're going to have. It's actually an area that you would use in a utility area, maybe in a washer and dryer space and this sort of thing, to clean things, to wash things out, that sort of thing. And how convenient. It's right there. Well, he's got plastic sheeting that's lining all of this stuff. There's big plastic sheets all over the floor. And as he's talking about this, according to the CI, he even went to the point, according to the CI, Maxwell did, that he was going to dismember her body and deposit it. That brings me back to the dad. The dad knows this.
Right.
It's one thing if you find out that a CI said, "Oh yeah, well, I was talking to this guy, and the guy said he made mention that he's going to murder this girl." Okay, this 19-year-old girl here, he's going to murder her. Okay, no, it doesn't stop there. Not only am I going to execute her, I'm going to dismember her down here. Oh, and by the by, I'm going to deposit her remains in a variety of areas around town. You talked about this leg. I got a theory about this, Dave. I think, at this park where the leg was found, my thought was that he did not go all the way down the face of this cliff. They're referring to it as a cliff or a bluff. I think what happened is he got to the edge of it. And again, this goes to this half-hearted effort. You had mentioned the femur that we had referenced earlier with the cutting and all this sort of thing. I think he got to the edge and tossed it. Well, you have to think about how heavy a human leg is. I don't think that, hopefully none of you guys have had the experience that I have had in the morgue, where I've actually held an entire human leg that was either partially severed, that we had to continue to finish that up in the morgue as a result of trying to do an examination. It's very heavy, Dave.
Wow.
It's very heavy. And it's robust. All right. Yeah. Bone, muscle, tissue. Man. So he's going to get to the edge, and he's not going to make the effort to go down to Lake Michigan. He's actually going to toss this leg down the cliff, so it kind of rolls down. And so anybody, it's going to be in plain view. If anybody's standing up there, it's a park.
Right.
And I don't know about you. I saw Lake Michigan. I'm dazzled by it every time I see it, because you look out at it, particularly up in that area of the country, which I've been to many times. It's very pretty. People are going to walk to the shore, and I don't know about you, but if I walk along shore, I like to look down along the beach because it's kind of cool if I have that point of observation. He didn't go very far into trying to disguise this, Dave.
And that's what gets me. I don't understand that. How do you go to such great lengths that 4 weeks before you're going to do this incredibly horrible, evil thing? You've got it all mapped out. You've already got the plastic laid out. And by the way, the confidential informant actually says that he had plastic on the floor and the walls and the ceiling. So he was planning on having blood spatter. He knows something about this. The only people who are going to know if you're slinging stuff around and there's blood, you're going to have blood going everywhere. And that's why he puts the plastic all over, right? So they still found blood in the basement, but
you can't escape it. I think that a lot of people believe that you're going to be able to hide any element of blood, even if you say you take this great preparation in order to do it. They think about that show that people are always asking me about, that I have maybe watched 2 episodes of, Dexter, you know, where that the character goes to great lengths to disguise what he's doing and all these sorts of things. He has appropriate tools. And, you know, I remember when Sade's case first hit the news, there were references, particularly on social media, to Dexter, because you're thinking about an individual that takes this young, beautiful woman, healthy. He takes her out on a date and kills her. And I remember looking at those exterior images of that home. And I remember seeing that kind of cream colored brick that was on the outside, which Milwaukee is actually known for. There's actually a term for Milwaukee. They call it the Cream City, and it has nothing to do with creamer. It has to do with the color of the stone and the brick that they use up there. And all I could think about was one other person in the history of Milwaukee, and that was Jeffrey Dahmer. And I got to tell you, Dave, this case has certain earmarks that are terrifying in regarding the connection of these two.
Friday. Kick off the Winter Olympics in style with the opening ceremony from Italy, featuring a special performance by Mariah Carey. Celebrate the greatest athletes from around the globe as they come together to go for gold.
Lindsey Vonn, sensational!
The opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
Ilya Malinin.
Redefining the sport.
Friday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
So I know as we were closing out last segment, Dave, I had mentioned Jeffrey Dahmer. And look, I'm in no way impugning Milwaukee. I've spent a lot of time in Milwaukee, and I love that city. It's probably by far my favorite Midwestern city, particularly upper Northwestern. I love the beer. I love the food. I love the fact that it's got this great German and Polish heritage. I've even been to the German festival in Milwaukee. Spent a lot of time there over the years. The reason I mentioned Dahmer, and his name surfaces a lot in any kind of case that's particularly horrific, the reason I bring him up is that Dahmer literally was a trophy taker. He held on to, well, let's just face it, human remains. Yeah. And when you have someone that indwells this kind of mindset here where they are, they're wanting to relive perhaps these experiences, it is it's a reminder to us all that this perpetration of these crimes run deeper than just merely the slaughter that's involved. These people have a desire to go back and relive this horror over and over again. And Dave, there were some items that they actually found down in that basement that, as horrible as Sade's case is, they actually have nothing to do with her directly. These are other items, Dave.
Well, all right, Joe. I know, as we have stated, that there's a real frustration that this search warrant that was released shows the family that there was somebody involved in this case that was known to the police that could have told somebody something and chose not to until after the fact. I don't know if there's a way that these things can be prevented, because the family is going to, I don't even know what the family does now. No matter how you've been able to try to adjust to your new life where your daughter has been done this way in such a horrible fashion, how you recover from that, emotionally speaking. But now to know that he actually had talked about it ahead of time, this is kind of like saying that you had a friend that said he was going to kill himself and he had a gun and you went ahead and got him the bullets because he was, he said he wasn't going to do it tonight. So I got him the bullets. Same thing here. I'm not going to do it tonight, but he names the person he's going to do it to, Sade Robinson, on March 5th. And he's already picked her out. He's picked out his prey. He's ducked out the room with plastic everywhere. And he's telling somebody else what his plan is: to kill her, cut her up, throw the parts away. He's got the whole plan. I guess that's my frustration, Joe. And releasing this search warrant information to the public, while it does have value, I wonder if the value for us to know matches up with what the family is. Well, I know they're going to hear it in court. I'm just shocked that we have this kind of information, because to me, my first thought was the dad. You could have told me. You could have told somebody. The CI could have told somebody.
Yeah. And I think that what makes this, even if it could possibly get even more horrific for this precious family that are having to endure this with their baby girl, it just the fact is that yes, this could have been thwarted, but when they begin the search in the basement, Dave, by virtue of what the NBC affiliate is reporting in Milwaukee,
right?
You used to play golf, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Me too. Hopefully I'll be back to it sooner than later.
Your back's not going to let that happen, but you can dream about it. Go ahead.
Can dream.
Yeah.
I always kept a Crown Royal bag attached to my golf bag. And if you don't know what that is, it's purple velvet. It's got the Crown Royal symbol, and Crown Royal is a particular type of whiskey. Well, my daughter actually used to work as a bartender, and she got me like 6 of these things. And I would put my golf tees in there, and they were just, it was absent from the bag. And so a lot of people use it for this purpose. A lot of golfers do. Dave, they found a Crown Royal bag down there in that basement, and it contained items. And these things are not, at least at this point, they don't seem to be directly connected to Sade Robinson. And if you'll permit me, I got to tell you, and this is actually coming again from.
I'm thinking it's not connected to Sade, but based on his preparation and his execution.
Yeah.
Could they be tied to other? Are we looking for other bodies now?
Well, I got to tell you, in the bag, this Crown Royal bag, he found the police actually found an ID belonging to another woman. She's 27 years old, Dave. There was a notebook that contained other women's names and information about them. Dave, I don't know if you know, in the military, snipers don't just go out to just take out a target with a long gun. They actually go out as observation teams as well. And they keep detailed notes about movement and all that sort of thing. Dave, in this notebook, it says that it's got other women's names. And here's the thing about it, and information about them. Is he tracking other potential victims? They fit, we talked about the typology. They fit a type, perhaps, that he is drawn to. He's watching them. We don't know at this point in time how many women there were in it. But here, they found other things, Joe, in that basement. If you remember in the search warrant, one of the things they were able to look for was duct tape. And they were looking for, based on what the CI told them, they were given a lot of leeway.
when they were looking for the remnants of duct tape on the wall and in the rafters and the beams, they found ladies' underwear. They found hidden USB drives, multiple weapons, including firearms and knives. But it's the women's clothing. We've got women's clothing. It is plural. I don't know how many pieces of underwear they found, but it's more than one. Underwear in the basement, hidden between support beams and in the foundation
wall. Yeah, so that would lead me to believe if it's in the foundation wall, and just give me a little rope here because it's what I'm, you think about maybe a cinder block, for instance, and if you've ever seen, mortared cinder blocks, if you get to the top and nothing's resting on top of them, you have an empty hole. And so if he were to have stored something down in that hole, for instance, in the top of a cinder block, because they're talking about foundation walls here, Dave, he could go back and essentially fetch it out of there, retrieve it if he's in this mode of trying to fantasize about this. I got to tell you who this reminds me of. It smacks of BTK because he had what we refer to as a rat hole. He would take items from victims' homes, and he had a space beneath his staircase in the basement of their home there in Wichita, and he would hide these items and he treasured them. He would take postmortem photography, all of these sorts of items. There were it's almost like if you've ever found a squirrel's nest or some other, animal that's nesting, you'll find items that are contained. Raccoons are famous for going out and collecting shiny objects and bringing them back, and that's where they have them in their nest. And so is that it's too horrible to consider, but has he perpetrated other crimes? Have they risen to the level of homicide, Dave? Are there other unidentified bodies that have been found around, and it's not just Milwaukee, but maybe the outlying area that they haven't been able to ID, or they've never been able to tie them back to anyone? I'll tell you what's going to be really interesting about those clothing items, Dave, is if they can take those clothing items and test all of the surfaces. And if they come up with DNA that is not his, and you can tie it back to one missing person, perhaps, if somebody's in a system somewhere or something where they can run that down, oh my gosh, the floodgates will absolutely open at that point in time and maybe reveal something bigger. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but when I hear this kind of holding on to items like this in a case like hers, I'm really wondering how many other open cold cases do they have around that area, and does it match up with the timeline that Maxwell has been living in this area? You go back to, we made the comment, I think a few months ago, was it Twisted Fisherman? That was the name of the restaurant.
Yeah, Twisted Fisherman.
He worked, dude. You talk about a rich environment for targeting people.
Oh yeah. You're
working in that environment. You're identifying. You have your pick of who you're going to target based upon your typology that you're applying to all of these. This profile that you're applying to all of these. So yeah, that's quite chilling. What I find it interesting about the duct tape, because I think that they were going down there to find specifically duct tape adhesive, Dave.
Right. I was going to ask you, because I don't really understand. I understand what adhesive is, and I know what duct tape is, and I know that duct tape has adhesive on it.
But you're a man, so you know what duct tape is.
I know.
We use duct tape for everything.
It can fix everything from the china in my wife's cabinet to the skateboard my grandson uses. I keep it right here. I got duct tape on my hip like it's a 45, man. I'm ready.
I hear you.
I wonder, when I saw that, I'm thinking, okay, so they're following up on the duct tape used by this criminal, this suspected murderer, and they're trying to track down this adhesive. Are they trying to match it up against something else they've found? I mean, don't they have I know that you get all the information you can, but at what point do you say, okay, we got the guy. We just need to find more dead people? Is that what we're after? I'm not trying to be gross, but I don't see how this guy goes this all in, Joe, and this is the only body. I'm not.
Yeah, I have a hard time
I'm praying
with
it
that.
is, but I got a really tough time figuring out that it seems like, you know what? It seems like he was planning on doing something, that he had some kind of big master plan. And when he got through all of that, when it came time to actually finishing the job, he already went through the exciting part. Now I'm done.
Yeah, no, he couldn't. I think that there's, obviously, I think most of these crimes are sexually motivated.
Mm-hmm.
So he peaked early, perhaps. Yeah. And I think that goes to the idea of the, I hate to keep returning to this, but the job that was done on the femur.
Right.
Because if he was taking pleasure in that portion of it, he would not have rushed unless he felt a threat, like somebody's coming to the house.
Oh, wow.
If his enjoyment was perhaps tied to the act of dismembering a human body, I think that perhaps you would see these kind of clean lines, time taken with the body. You go back all the way in time, I think probably the most famous dismemberment, which is actually a bisection of a body, was the Black Dahlia. When you think about that, the edges were very clean. She was essentially dissected in half, and it appeared that her body had been bathed. Both pieces, the torso of the upper torso and then the lower torso, were found immediately adjacent, but there was that gap. I know most people have seen those images from back those many years ago in L.A. when they found her body. That's an individual that took a very specific amount of time with the body and great care because they bathed the body. So you see this. Did he finish early, essentially, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And I think that if we had one of our friends like Karen Stark with us, to talk about perhaps some of the psychology behind this, it's kind of peeking out, if you will. I'm going to be interested to know what the adhesive, though, that's left behind, because for me, was there some part of the body that still had duct tape attached to it? And if that duct tape adhesive that they're looking for perhaps was like on a beam, the first thing I'm thinking about is, was she suspended and tied with duct tape to a beam? And as you well know, that when you peel duct tape off, you leave an adhesive residue. And not only do you leave you leave an outline, dude. Mm-hmm. You can actually see the margins of this thing. Mm-hmm. So did they find duct tape associated with a remain, and they're going back saying, we got to look for duct, because they're talking about this in this warrant. We're looking for duct tape adhesive here.
Adhesive.
Yeah.
I don't know, Joe. I did not even think about him tying her up, but using duct tape to hang, put her hands above her head. I was actually not thinking this through because there were certain aspects of it that I just found repulsive. The femur, the leg just really gets me. But getting into this, would you be able to tell if she was dead or alive when he decided to start?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because her body was not down. I'll put it to you this way. There's soft tissue.
Right.
And if we have soft tissue, we can look at those edges of those injuries that she has endured. Okay. We can look at the edges. We can look at the margins. And when I say margin, essentially where the body is cut in two. All right. You've got, just think of the parting of the Red Sea. Okay. You've got the right side of the left sea. If we think about the movie, The 10 Commandments, you got the right side of the Red Sea and you got the left side, and you got that kind of empty space that, children of Israel walk through in the movie. So that area that's kind of sliced away, if you imagine both walls, what you'll see in there, contained in there, those little microvessels are going to hemorrhage if that occurs in life. So if you're talking about an arm, a leg, a head, a foot, whatever the case might be, if that was done in life, and again, that goes to another level, Dave. We're not just talking about this kind of act of mutilating a corpse. Now you bring in this idea of torture. And if you had to, say, use tape to bind somebody with, Dave, there could be an element of torture that's contained therein. I think the police know much, much more than we know at this time. I hope they do. I don't necessarily want to know everything that they know, but I guarantee you this, Dave. All things, and I mean all things, are going to come to light. I just hope that when they do, if there are other cases out there that the police believe that Maxwell is associated with, I'm hoping that those items that they found in that basement will not be the finish line, but the starting point for further investigation. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.